Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a Pokemon VMAX that we knew was coming. It's Garbodor VMAX, and we knew Garbodor was coming. Garbodor had to be coming because all the Pokemon that have proper Gigantamax forms all get VMAX cards. And honestly, Garbodor is one of the very, very last. There's only a couple now missing. We knew we were going to get Garbodor. Now it's here. Now for the VMAX, the translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet. For the Pokemon V, the translation comes from me. That's right, I did it myself. Now I was chatting to Antoine at the time, and I did get the translation myself, but shall we say Antoine was checking my work as I went, but I translated it myself. I'm kind of delighted with myself, so let's start off with Garbodor V that I translated, and I'm very proud of myself. I know I've already said that, but I am very proud of myself. So starting off with the basics then, we got 210 HP, which is about right. Pokemon V tend to go up to 220, but I'm not going to get upset about 210. We got a retreat cost of 3, which is just kind of high and annoying, and a weakness to fighting, which, among other things, Galarian Zapdos. The problem is, there are a bunch of really good stuff that are weak to fighting, and Galarian Zapdos is such a good counter to all of those things, that it basically means anything that gives up multiple prizes and is weak to fighting is going to be naturally and easily countered by Zapdos for multiple prizes, and that honestly makes me a little bit sad. You are a Darkness Pokemon though, so that means you are hitting weakness on Shadow Rider Calyrex, which ain't too bad. At least you're hitting a decent weakness as well. So what have we got? Well, the first attack here for 1 Darkness, 1 Colorless Energy does 40 damage, and the defending Pokemon is poisoned and cannot retreat during their next turn. And as much as I like this attack, I don't know if it's good enough for 2 energy. 40 damage is okay, but 40 damage is weak. You're not going to get much done with 40 damage. And then, of course, you've got Poison, and Poison is good, and Poison will add extra damage, so it's minimum 50. And, of course, we've already got the Toxicroak from Sword and Shield, which will add 2 damage counters to that Poison between turns. But then again, that's a stage 1, so you've got to have multiple stage 1s out to really make this worth it. It's not just the basic Pokemon. The Can't Retreat next turn is nice, but nowadays everybody's playing many copies of Switch, so even not being able to retreat is not the end of the world. And I feel like if this was, say, 20 or 30 damage, but for a single energy, I would like it an awful lot more. But it's not. It's 40 damage for 2 energy, and I don't think it does quite enough damage, and the poison is alright, but it won't add up fast enough, and the not retreating is nice, but they play too many switches. I've said many times before, these attacks that stop your opponent retreating, they can win you games, and I have won multiple games with these kind of attacks. But for 2 energy, I don't think it does quite enough, and that makes me sad. Although, make no mistake about it, there will be games where your opponent is out of switching cards, and you can either trap something in the active until they deck out, or you can trap something in the active and KO it by chipping away and getting the poison going, getting free KOs because your opponent is out of switches. There will be games where that works, but it's not always going to work as often as you might like. I am sorry. Now, I didn't really translate the second attack because it's just free energy 130. And that's fine, it's just not enough. It just doesn't do enough, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah. It's not a bad attack, but you need to get free energy on there, and it's not the easiest type 2 accelerate. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've got stuff like Galarian Moltres, but you got to get the energy from Galarian Moltres onto this, so you need to be mucking about with stuff like Energy Switch to make it work. And 130 is fine. You know, I talk a lot on this channel about the difference between 120 and 130, and how 120 will miss a bunch of key KOs, 130 will pick up those key KOs. There's a real dividing line going on here. But free energy on a 2-prize Pokemon to KO the majority of single-prize Pokemon, I don't think it's a fair trade. I am sorry. But moving on over to the VMAX then, what we see is an increase to 330 HP, which is It's not as high as it gets, but it's pretty gosh darn close. Same annoying retreat cost to 3, same weakness to fighting, and again, you are going to be pretty easily countered by Galarian Zapdos. I am not a fan of being weak to Galarian Zapdos V in this current format. I know I've said it a couple of times, but I really do think it is a pretty gosh darned important point. But we do have a rather nice ability here, and the ability says, this Pokemon can have up to 2 tool cards attached. If this ability stops working, discard tools from this Pokemon so that there is only 1 left. Oh, it's Genesect. Genesect always used to be the, hey, I can have multiple tools attached, yay, go me. You know, Genesect EX let you move tools around, and Genesect GX did let you have tool cards attached, 2 of them. Well, it seems like Garbodor's taken over, which as an old school player makes me very happy, although it's not that old school. Don't forget that Trubbish was the original tool drop Pokemon, so I kind of like this. This makes me kind of happy. You can have 2 tools. Now, if the ability gets turned off, you have to discard one of them, and bearing in mind, we've got, amongst other things, Path to the Peak, which will absolutely be played a bunch, and will absolutely be annoying in terms of making you get rid of one of those tools. So I do expect this ability to be turned off here and there, and that is unfortunately going to lose some of the tools. But it just means you can do a bunch of stuff. So for instance, I know I said the retreat cost is annoying, but if you attach 2 Air Balloon, you can get free retreats. Or you can attach something like a Vitality Band, and then a second Vitality Band, so that you're doing an extra 20 damage, which, okay, fine, it's an extra 20 damage, but it's options that other Pokemon don't actually have, and that honestly makes me kind of happy. I like being able to do stuff that my opponent isn't able to do. We could talk about things like Rugged Helmet. You could double up on those, and then you're putting 2 energy from the attacking Pokemon into your opponent's hand. So it's just far better in terms of energy denial than other equivalent Pokemon would be. Now, if you really want to get crazy, and I'm not sure I can endorse this, but if you do, let's say you're against a Darkness Pokemon, there are a bunch of them out there, you can attach 2 Justified Gloves, and now all of a sudden you're doing an extra 60 damage, which obviously is far better than something like a double Vitality Band. If you want a really weird option here, how about double Hero's Medal? Now, Hero's Medal is the one where you lose 100 HP maximum, but you can then give up 1 fewer prize when you get KO'd. Kind of fun, right? Well, now you can essentially attach 2 of these, and okay, fine, you get down to 130 HP, but you then also only give up a single prize. I cannot be the only one that thinks this could be kind of fun. You're nice and weak, but like I said, 130 is about standard for a single prize Pokemon, so essentially turn it into a single prize Pokemon. That could be kind of fun. I'm not going to go through every possibility here in terms of what we can do, because frankly, it will take far too much time. Point is, you can basically do whatever you want in terms of playing around with multiple tools, and that is going to give you a lot more options. It means you can have a whole bunch of funky builds with this that other decks just can't. Now, for 2 energy, you do 120 damage, plus poison, and can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. I do want to put it on the record, I hadn't seen this when I started translating Garbodor V. Otherwise, yes, it would clearly, it would have made my job lots easier. But, you know, I would only have been cheating myself, ladies and gentlemen. And essentially, my analysis here is actually very different to the previous one. Because on the previous one, I said, look, we got 2 energy, 40 damage, it's not enough. But now, we've got 2 energy, 120 damage, and that's completely different. See, the thing about Garbodor V is that 40 damage meant that to really start picking up key KOs, you either had to muck around with a whole bunch of Stage 1 Toxicroaks, not ideal, or you had to have your opponent trapped in the active, unable to retreat for multiple turns. And sooner or later, they're going to draw that switch. That's why I didn't really like the attack on Garbodor V. But now on Garbodor VMAX, I'm doing 120 damage, which means over 2 turns with poison, it's actually 270. 120, and then it goes poison on your turn, poison on their turn. 120, poison on your turn is 240 plus a 30 from poison. Now you're up to 270. Annoyingly, your tag team Pokemon will have rotated out, because 270 is obviously the classic number for tag team Pokemon. Well, actually, in Japan, they won't quite have rotated out, but for us, they will. Assuming you're not watching from Japan. If you are, you're good for at least a little while. I like to think I know a few people are watching from Japan. If you're watching from Japan, a very special hello to you this morning or afternoon. We know the intro by now. My point is, this gets up to big numbers. Even VMAXs, okay, fine, you've got to start mucking around with Toxicroak. But let's assume you've got one. You've got a single Toxicroak. Well, I hit for 120, plus 30 poison is 150. After my opponent's turn, they take another 30, it goes up to 180. I hit for 120 and it goes up to 300, plus a 30 for poison is 330. And sure, there's the odd VMAX like Eternatus that goes up to 340, but that is the exception very much rather than the rule. What that means is, with a single Toxicroak, you're into 2-hit KOing VMAX territory, but you're doing it for 2 energy. And you've got all those options with multiple tools. Yes, there are other VMAXs that can 2-hit KO for 2 energy, but they don't have all of the extra options with tools that Garbodor has, and that's why I like Garbodor. 2 energy is really not bad. It's a single energy switch from a Galarian Moltres, or you could even play around with something like Rose if you wanted to. And then your 2-hit KOing Vs and VMAXs, you're playing around with Poison, you're getting the vast majority of single prize Pokemon, and then you've got stuff like Double Rugged Helmet, which is just amazing. And of course, obviously, if you start playing around with like Double Justified Gloves, Eternatus is very much going down here. I adore this. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. I don't think it is a game-breaking card, but I do think it's got a good enough attack and an interesting ability. For me, this is a deck builder's card. This is the kind of card where people are going to come around and be like, well, I only need an extra 10 damage from Vitality Band, but then I can actually play around with Hero's Medal at the same time as throw off my opponent's prize race, and I love it, ladies and gentlemen. I am a big fan. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.